You're fine. As long as you just mind the trip hazards.
Yes, I will.
Well, I'll do a little bit. Okay. So, been working on the theme of derelict structures. So last week and the week before, I think the week before I did a quick demo in acrylics. Last week was a watercolour demo. Yeah. And I thought this week I would apply a bit of oils to this painting that I started quite a while ago. So I thought I'd make this probably the last session that I'll work on the derelict theme, but if you want to carry on that, you're very welcome to.
I love it.
The next theme I think we're looking at is flowers, or flowers within the context of landscape or something like that. So however you want to interpret that, if you want to do that as a theme. So that will be next couple of sessions. And then the last week of April, just to remind you, I'm taking a break the last week of April. So there won't be a session then. So this painting, so this bit I've done I've used that for my Tuesday class from this morning's demo. All this section I painted quite a few years ago from life, and I was painting it's called Pin Mill in Suffolk. It's quite a nice little area to paint, and we painted another part of the area in the daytime, and then just towards the evening we went and found these wrecks and started doing the painting. But while we were painting, the light changed really dramatically, and it was like pitch black by the time we finished and we were walking back. So this is a quick sketch with about an hour and a half really. But as the evening went on, the light got nicer, so I think I must have taken this photograph, as the light improved.
Yeah.
So I think when we started it was a bit more solid, and then we got these nice warm colours coming. So I thought, well, it might be quite a nice one to use as a demo. But I'm probably never likely to go back and finish it. So yeah, so I've been experimenting with different painting knives and painting implements. So really what I'd suggest is kind of work background to foreground. So these are some of the colours that I mixed this morning, sort of making this a little bit kind of pinkier and lighter down here. And actually sometimes I quite like it when you've got a little bit of the colour underneath showing through. So this lilac, although I didn't mind it at the time, it's a little bit flat. So some of this coming through works quite nicely, and then moving on to a slightly more purpley, bluey colour at the top.
What is that orangey? Is that crimson?
So
light yellow.
Yeah, it's a tiny bit of, I think it's like a rose colour. It might be crimson, I can't remember what I used really. Sometimes like magenta is quite nice, or something like a rose colour to make that. But crimson would do it as well. A little bit cooler crimson, and a bit of Capian yellow or some sort of warm yellow. And then the purpley grey, I think that's the one I used, yeah. So maybe it's a little bit, maybe we want to go a little bit lighter. Again, it's bluish, but I didn't want to make it too strong a blue. Quite like that being, and mixing or blending the colours with a knife gives quite a different feel to brush blending, because it's not quite as even. So you can kind of push it around and scrape it around. So that would be that bit. Again, these greens to me are a little bit too strong, and I think by the time I took the photo they were a little bit greyed down. So I'll make those a little bit greyer. So I think this is actually a black I've got there, but I'll add a little bit, maybe a bit of green and a bit of blue. Sometimes I use blacks, but I tend to mix other colours in with them if I do. It's a bit too stark on their own. So I get a nice sort of kind of purpley, greyish greens there. That might be too big a knife. Let's try these. Perhaps this. That one. Just scrape some of that through there. And again, having that slightly broken paint work adds a little bit of texture and makes the marks appear a little bit more interesting, I think, a bit more lively. Let's go a little bit lighter as well. Sometimes I like to have a dark and then work a light colour into that. That can work quite nicely. The other thing with this is I'm right-handed, so it's good to have this bit is all dry, so I can lean on that while I'm tweaking the background. I think that hopefully that suggests maybe buildings and trees in the background without being too precise. And then working forwards, I've popped some paint here where the water is. Done that a little bit already, so again I could go a bit more with that. Using a couple of different blues, the cerulean blue and the ultramarine blue will give me interesting combinations. A bit lighter. That. This morning I added this highlight, slightly lighter on there to give the impression of it catching the light. And I've also used, as well as the knives, I've got these things that are paint shapers. So these I can just add little bits of paint on. So things like along here, there's some ridges. I'd already painted the blue background in, but I can pop those in a bit like you would a brush, really. So they're almost like brushes, but give me a nice sharp mark. So pop those in, perhaps some through here. I think I'm missing a little bit of background colour there. Slightly.
Would you that over like a square brush? Because you often use a square brush to do that, don't you?
I do, yeah. I quite often use square brushes. These are very cheap paint. They're called paint shapers, and I got these from Lidl's years ago. So I think they're better quality ones than these, but they're quite interesting to play around with and experiment with.
Do you like using them? You use them?
I don't generally use them, but it's quite enjoying it here. It's quite interesting to try and make a painting with something other than brushes. Normally I just rely on my brushes, really. Occasionally a palette knife, but very rarely. But it's actually giving me different textures and different marks that I wouldn't really achieve otherwise.
Or could you use those pointers for a very thin line if you're trying to do very thin lines?
What, these?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could if you're very careful about how much you pop on. Like I'll just do a couple here. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can just. I'll do a few so you can see them actually. Yeah, so that would work quite well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works quite nicely. You could almost like, you can do that as well actually. So, yeah, that could be quite good. So that's those. And then the other things I've got are these old plastic cards. So these are quite good, and you can cut these into the shapes that you want to use, or cut notches out and things like that. And again, these are good if you want to almost like pop a thin line on, almost like, so these lines here I've used these, but again it's a bit like printing. You can sort of just pop lines on like that, and you quite often get a slightly broken line, which can add a bit of interest. If you're really careful, you could probably you just got to be careful how much. You don't have to. You don't want to over ink them or under ink or over it, but I want a really solid line. That's quite solid. And the other thing you can do is, if I bend it slightly and do that, I'm careful. It's very easy to smudge, but you can almost get a curve. So I've tried that a little bit here.
God, that's clever.
The other thing I did try once was like a tin to get a curve, like rolling the edge of a tin. Paint on the edge of a tin and rolling that. So you perhaps use one of these plastic things or something like that. But it's experimenting with different ways of putting paint on, trying to come up with some textures that you wouldn't create just with the brushes, really. By all means, use brushes as well. But I thought with this one, I've just been sticking with these implements. So yeah, if you want to use any of those, they're all kind of laid out here. You're very welcome to use anything here and have a little experiment. The other thing is, I mentioned last week about if if anybody's interested in the two holidays that I'm planning. So one's a weekend in Southwold, and the other is a little bit of Italy, either a few days or a week. And I've added a little bit of a questionnaire for anybody who's interested in the Italy one. So a sort of planning questionnaire. So
What beer do you like? That sort of thing.
it's not quite as detailed as that.
Can you remind me of the dates on the Southwold?
Yeah, the Southwold one is the Saturday the 27th and Sunday the 28th of June.
Of June?
Yeah, I'll give you one of these leaves so you've got the information.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think I've got about half a dozen people interested in Southwold, and I think I've got 2 definites for Italy, and probably about another 4 or 6 people who are interested.
Italy is later than the...
Yeah, Italy is the 14th of September. Yeah, yeah.
Sounds nice.
Okay. Yep, all good. Right, good.